So do you want me to do this? Yeah, so work experience. I'm sure you guys know you need 2 weeks minimum. It's quite different to medicine, so you don't necessarily need to do too much. You don't need to be working in a hospital and doing volunteering work, like voluntary work, but for an entire year. As long as you've got your 2 weeks minimum work experience, you're covered. With COVID-19, I know that certain universities are becoming quite lenient with their work experience requirements. So certain universities are understanding that you may not be able to obtain work experience. So in your personal statements, for example, Manchester have said that they would like you to just write about what you would expect to see and learn from a typical 2-week work placement. And if you do plan to book any after sort of lockdown and guidelines are reduced, if you plan on doing anything, you should include that in your personal statement. So there's some sort of leniency there, but please make sure that if you do work experience, that you keep evidence of it, because certain universities will ask you to present evidence that you've done 2 weeks there. I was personally not asked by King's or Manchester for that. I'm not sure, Joanna, if you
No,
were.
I wasn't either, just clarify, yeah.
But certain universities will ask. I know Cardiff do. I think that's what we were talking about. So just be wary of that. So if you do your work experience or have done it, try to contact them back, or just have their number ready just in case universities ask for evidence.
Yeah.
How to obtain work experience. So me and Joanna have had different experiences obtaining work experience.
Very different,
Joanna, go through yours first and then I'll talk about mine.
Yeah, so mine is actually kind of long rooted in a sense. So my cousin's best friend's brother is a dentist, and I was staying over at my cousin's house at the time, and she had mentioned that her friend had come over, and she'd mentioned that her brother was a dentist, and I messaged him, and he said that it was okay for me to shadow him, but I'm aware that that's probably not going to be the case for a lot of people, and Rehan will mention how he did his as well.
Yeah, so I didn't know anyone, no dentists in the family, no, nothing of the sort. So what I did was I just went to Starbucks one day, got Google Maps out, and I just typed in dental practices, and I kid you not, I called 80 practices, and the 80th one said, yeah, sure, we'll let you on for 2 weeks. So if you feel like you don't know anyone or you have no idea how to go about it, I recommend just sit down on your laptop, Google Maps, and you've got to sit there. Hopefully one will say yes. It took me 80 phone calls and a lot of credit to get that one practice to say yes, because there's a lot of insurance and things that a dental practice has to consider for you to come on. Just to get a gauge of you guys, have you all had work experience in the past, and has it been dental related? If you just want to pop it in the chat, and if you haven't, do you have any questions about how to obtain it? Just because this slide sort of will cover work experience, so we don't want to rush, and we do want to make it quite interactive. So if you just pop in the chat to anyone who's here, if you've had work experience, and if you have any questions about how to include that or incorporate it in your personal statement, we can cover that now as well. But I'm not too sure if...
Yeah, so I know one of them haven't had, so I know Rahib hasn't had work experience.
Okay.
So I guess it would be good even if it was one person to just go through the work experience process and things like that. I also appreciate, yeah, so he hasn't done work experience, but he's done an online virtual, he's done something virtually, and that's really important because I wanted to mention that because of COVID-19, there is a lot of difficulties in getting work experience. In fact, a lot of dentists aren't even open right now because when you use things like the drills in practices, they have a lot of spray, and you can't really control where that spray will go. And so things like infection control is very difficult to manage. And for that reason, I know King's are very lenient this year about work experience, and they are accepting things like seminars, webinars, and virtual labs like Rahib has done.
Yeah, just to add on that, I think try and do anything you can right now. It's very limited at the time because we're all stuck at home. As Joanna mentioned, dental practices are pretty much closed at the moment. I think the ones that are currently open are emergency practices that are hub units for emergency patients to come in, but they are really like monitored and controlled due to COVID-19. So if you can get your hands on any virtual labs or seminars, webinars such as this is really good to talk about as well. Just saying that you attended a webinar that discussed applications shows that it's better than nothing, basically. So whether you're talking about it in your personal statement or at interview stage, it just gives you something extra to talk about, and that does help a lot.
And also, sorry to add, it doesn't even have to be seminars, webinars, or virtual labs. I know that during my interview, which we will mention afterwards, I didn't just talk about dental experiences in particular. I talked about things like work or any team activities that I was involved with, things like NCS, where you have team bonding, and places that you need to communicate. So all of these are considered work experience. The 2 weeks minimum is dental work experience, but like I said, because it's now very difficult to get that kind of work experience, the universities, as I'm aware, are offering some sort of leniency. But to make sure, you can just email the universities that you're applying to, and you can ask them if they still require the 2 weeks minimum, and if they don't, then what are the alternatives?
Yeah, we've just got a question in if you want to pop back to the slide. So we've got a question saying, is it true work experience in dentistry is absolutely vital for an application? Is it possible to get a place without experience?
Do you want to, we can both.
Yeah, so with dentistry, so the sort of things that you absolutely need to even consider applying are the grades. So you need to be thinking of at least trying to aim for 3 A's for a solid application, 2 weeks work experience as well, and a solid UCAT score. So every year the UCAT average does change, but it usually stays between the range of 630, if I'm correct, 630 to 640. But anything above that is what you want to aim for. So you want to aim for a solid UCAT, 2 weeks work experience, and 3 A's.
Yeah.
To sort of feel like you're at a good position.
It's kind of like the baseline, I'd guess you'd say, for an dental application. It's something that everyone kind of has to have. And it's unfortunate because of the current climate, but it is something that is expected of you. But I think, did we answer the question? Is that okay?
Yeah, and just for anyone that's joining in, if you have any questions on any of the slides that we're currently talking about, just pop it into the chat and we'll answer them as we go along.
Yeah.
Great. Next.
Yeah.